Welcome to Sectors Up Close. I'm Elena Casas. Today we're talking European consumer stocks, and my guest is Joachim Klement, Head of Strategy at Liberum Capital. Last week we had a clutch of results from high street fashion giants. They were a mixed bag, with strong numbers from Zara owner Inditex, a full year 2023 earnings beat from Zalando, and for Adidas its first loss since 1992. Sales growth is softening across the sector as inflation-challenged shoppers tighten their belts. The Stoxx 600 retail index, whose biggest constituents are Inditex, H&M and Next, is up 2.3% this year, trailing the wider benchmark. Well, to find out when shoppers will be spending again and on what, I'm joined now by Joachim Klement of Liberum Capital. Joachim, hi, thanks for joining us. On the macro level then, it's clear that especially in Europe, consumers are still tightening their belts. But when do you expect them to be spending again? Will it happen this year?
We think that it will happen this year, but probably more in the second half of this year. For the time being, there is a lack of demand driven by the weak economy all over the European Union and the lack of savings. In fact, we see European households increase their savings ratio in order to have a little bit more of a safety buffer in case they are going to lose their jobs.
Among this sector, though, there's clearly a huge difference between different companies. Let's start with Inditex, the Spanish fashion giant, which has reported very strong numbers. What is the company doing right?
We think that the key driver of Inditex's strong performance is that it has a very clear strategy in where it wants to grow and how it wants to grow. Most importantly, it is trying to expand its footprint in the US, which so far is the second largest market after its own market, Spain. It has a lot of room to grow there. It will open up a few more shops for Massimo Dutti's brand physically, but the key growth here is that so far Inditex in the US is not a big player on the online retail space, and that is where they can really grow rapidly over the next 12 to 24 months.
In Europe, how is the balance between retailers like Zara, who still do a lot of business in store, of course, and online-only companies who in many ways are able to undercut them, aren't they?
Yes, we obviously had a secular shift towards more online shopping. A key beneficiary over the last 5 to 10 years was Zalando, Europe's largest online retailer. This is still a company that we find very attractive because of the high profit margins and because it is one of the key beneficiaries of declining inflation and declining transport costs and wage costs. So that is definitely a play to look into together with Inditex.
What about H&M? The Swedish fast fashion name, previously a huge brand of course, has really been struggling in the last set of numbers. What's gone wrong there?
Yeah, it's a kind of a conflagration of many, many different things, whether that is inventory space and inventory levels that remain pretty high, which means the cost base remains pretty high. And it doesn't have the clear online growth pipeline that other retailers have, whether that is the ones that we already mentioned or Next, the number 3 in Europe, the UK-based retailer, which is again, 50% online, 50% physical. So a much more balanced profile than H&M, for example.
And Next and the other bellwether of Middle Britain, M&S, have both done pretty well in the last year. What's the picture there?
Yeah, Next is a perennial favorite of ours. I think the growth has mostly been priced in by now, but there's still the possibility of further upgrades, even though we have to say that they have upgraded their guidance 3 times in the last 6 months. So it's really getting thin air now, slowly, but we still remain very optimistic about that company. M&S is a classic turnaround story. A couple of years ago, nobody wanted to go shop at M&S, neither clothes nor food. And strangely, now M&S is hip again. People go clothes shopping in M&S. That will obviously continue in the remaining year because it is a more affordable alternative to some of the physical retailers that you find otherwise.
You've made your views clear on some of these stocks, but if an investor's picking and choosing, what are your top couple of picks in this space?
Yeah, I think in the near 3 to 6 month, it's more the staple retailer like M&S that we prefer. But if you have a 12-month time horizon, then Inditex together with Zalando are our clear favorites in the sector.
Joachim Klement, Head of Strategy at Liberum Capital. Thank you so much for that insight. And that's your roundup of the European consumer sector. I'm Elena Casas, and this is Reuters.